This is Ethan, and I'm here with Dave, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 146-inch.
On this episode, it's the second half of our interview with Roseanne McIlvane, who was Weird Al's makeup and hair designer from UHF through Poodle Hat.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Yes, everybody, welcome. Hey, Ethan, did your team win the Super Bowl?
Sure. And your team?
Yeah, I suppose.
Well, great. Now that we have fulfilled our masculinity quotient for the month by talking sports, it's time for This Week in Weird Al Related News.
This past weekend, Nerf Herder's song Born Weird, featuring Weird Al on accordion, premiered on the Dr. Demento show.
If you didn't hear it yet, the song is fantastic, and Weird Al's unforgettably bodacious accordion solo is pretty stinking majestic.
Born Weird will officially be released tomorrow, February 17th, on digital music platforms, and an exclusive 12-inch vinyl will be sold at nerfherder.com.
The 12-inch single also includes Nerf Herder's cover of My Bologna and is pressed on Bologna-colored vinyl and comes with a scratch and sniff Bologna sticker.
And that is not all. To celebrate the release of their brand new single with Weird Al, Perry Grip and Steve Sherlock of Nerf Herder will join us on Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast for an exclusive interview next week.
Oh, hey! I love Nerf Herder!
You know what else I love? I love vegan burrito restaurants. This episode is brought to you in part by vegan burrito restaurant Burrito in Troy, New York, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in a quesadilla Burrito, and Wizard Burger in Albany, New York. Come on down to Burrito and Burrito your Burrito, or hop on over to Wizard Burger for mouth-watering, loaded, dare I say beefy, vegan burgers. From Troy to Albany to Uranus, Burrito and Wizard Burger feed the hungry with out-of-this-world plant-based real food, always vegan style. Visit burritosquared.com and wizardburger.com to order ahead.
Last episode, we shared part 1 of our interview with Weird Al's longtime hair and makeup artist, Roseanne McIlvane.
Let's pick up the interview with Roseanne, already in progress, right where we left off last episode.
Was it super easy in comparison to do the bald cap for Gump, or is that challenging because of how much hair Al has?
Oh, Al has lots of hair. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, in order to wrap Al's hair and to get it flat, put it in a bald cap, I used a product that's called Gafwat. It's G-A-F-U-A-T, and it's an ingredient in hairspray that gives it the stiffness and the staying power. So I just use pure Gafwat. And it's water safe. It's water dissolved and water soluble, so it all rinses out real easy. Mm-hmm. But I would use plain Gafwat. Taking his hair and molding it in circles around his head to lay it flat and to maintain the shape of his skull. And he already has a large circumference of his scalp. I mean, it is. It's, the average wig molds are 22, 24s, extra. And Al has a 26 circumference. So anything that I would have to build or make in advance, I could do it from the one wig mold that I had. And, we would just lay his hair down because I didn't want pins come poking up through the latex.
Right.
So I Gafwat it and then hit it with a blow dryer so it would dry, and it dries hard and it becomes like a hard shell. And then you put and I always use a foam latex So it wasn't just a thin layer of latex made to put on his head. There was a slight 1/16 of an inch foam. So it kind of smoothed it out, so to speak. So, and it wasn't as fragile on doing that. And Matthew Mungle of WM Creations, I had him in his lab run all of my bald caps for Al. And Matthew is an Oscar-winning effects designer. And he worked with us on several of Al's videos.
Yeah.
And his partner, Johnny Jackson, helped me on doing Amish Paradise. And then also Bedrock Anthem.
Mm-hmm.
So I just always had, really talented artisans that worked with me. And that, to me, is the secret and the key to it.
I heard a rumor that in the Gump music video that the reason why Weird Al's bass player Steve J played the part of the guitar player, and the reasoning was because that Jim West's hair, Al's regular guitar player, was too big at the time to fit underneath of a wig.
Now you're really taxing my brain. It's possible because I didn't do the band on.
Oh, okay.
So whoever I had with me on that particular video, usually I try to keep a commonality with my crew because they were going to be around Al, and I also didn't want any starstruck people working with me who are going to bombard him, taking pictures, because I don't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
I do not do that. Maybe I should have done that in my career, but it's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And,
right.
But I'm trying to think who I had with me, and it doesn't, and that's very possible that happened because Jim has a head full of hair, and I'm friends with both Jim and Steve, and also with Bermuda, so I keep in contact with the guys.
Oh, nice.
Through Facebook. Yeah.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
Saw that Al was performing here a few years ago. The guys were really great, and it was Jim actually, or no, it was Steve J that put me on his guest list.
Oh, nice.
So that I could go to the show, and I was able to see Al afterwards in the green room,
mm-hmm.
and it had been several years since I had seen Al, and so it was a great kind of reunion, so to speak.
Oh, how
and
cool.
He was surprised. He didn't know. Yeah, it was great. I'm really happy that I got to see him.
That's awesome.
Now, putting Weird Al's, hair underneath a bald cap, or maybe in the situation, whether it's true or not, that Jim's West hair was too big to fit underneath a wig. I'm wondering if there's ever been any other, compromises, that needed to be made because either the wig wouldn't fit or the idea behind the look was too elaborate. Can you think of any compromises that you may have had to make?
No, not really. I mean, if it's something that needed to be done, I would just do whatever was necessary to try and make it happen, at least during my tenure of working with Al.
Yeah.
So, the only thing was trying to get his hair straight, and it just wouldn't. And I had to flat iron his hair all day long. That was a challenge. It was frustrating because the slightest amount of humidity was going to cause his hair to, curl right back up. And it was like, okay, what was I thinking? It just, it would have been better just to put him in a wig, but he wanted to do it with his hair straight. And I would always try to accommodate what he wanted. And then we're like, yeah, this ain't working. But yeah, no, there's nothing that comes to mind. I mean, the only thing that was a bit of a challenge, and I got it to work, and that's when I built again, there were 3 or 4 hair pieces that I used to create the wig for the Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
for the Saga Begins.
Yes, I mean that was a challenge. Getting his hair to lay flat and then getting the pieces on it. The opening of the video they shot in Death Valley in June or July. I mean, that's insane. That's 120. And
Right.
thank God I was booked in Chicago to work for Playboy. And I sent my team in to do it. And there was like some hiccups that happened. And the one makeup artist kind of like gave into heat exhaustion. And, she went down. So a few people did. And I knew that Kathleen was there. And so Kathleen was able to, make it work as best as possible. But any other shots that they needed to get of that, once I was back, came back from Chicago and we were in the studio, we were able to, fix it and get it the way he wanted it, especially for the bar scene.
Okay.
And, I forget what the character's name is. The girl that's the Asian character, all in white, with the Japanese design. We did that, but all the other characters that were masked and in prosthetic heads,
Yeah.
Yeah.
those were all provided and done by WM Creations, which is Matthew Mungle. And so he did that. And, when the videos become so intensive with certain aspects of makeup design, you've got to relinquish it. You can say, okay, this is the look that we want. And it just so happened that Matthew had in his inventory everything that they needed and could use. So, that was a perfect scenario. And then all the audience members for all the, the performance shows, all the people in the audience were friends of Al's or friends of the band or friends of somebody. I had a few friends that wanted, it's like, okay, come here, you can go be in a video.
How
Like,
awesome.
I think I've even put some of my crew people in. They're like, why don't you come in? Like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, that's not going to happen. Thank you very much.
I was just going to ask if you ever showed up in any of Weird Al's videos or projects.
Oh, never.
Never?
No, I'm a deer in headlights in front of the camera.
Okay.
It takes a special individial. Everybody says, oh, I can do that. And I'm like, okay, go try. Go try. To be natural and not feel uncomfortable that a camera is zoomed in on you and you don't know how tight they're zoomed in on you. Like when I worked on Internal Affairs, John Alonzo was our cinematographer, and it was like, oh dear God, he's shooting straight up the nose. And it's like, we do nose brewing. And all those things run through your head. But yeah, I am so uncomfortable in front of a motion camera. And even stills, I just don't do. That's why I asked you, Ethan, was today going to be a Zoom video? Because that meant I would have had to spend time doing my hair, doing my makeup. And it's like, oh, please, no.
No, we're easy on this podcast.
Yeah, I just didn't want to be on camera. It's not who I am.
Okay. Yeah, I can respect that. That's fair.
Now, I'm curious. So, you would design the hair. Did you actually ever cut Al's hair?
No. Oh, no. Well, yes, I have, but no.
Well, what does that mean?
Yeah. No. It's a funny thing with Al, because he'll go on tour. I got him to using a hair product, Nexium, that was like a liquid protein, and he could put it on his hair and keep it somewhat conditioned and manageable, because he'd come back from tour and he'd say, "Honey, I need my hair fixed." And I'd look at him and go, "Oh my God, what did you do? Hang your head out the window?" And he, you know, it's just like, oh, okay. And it's about conditioning it and getting the curls back. But with Al, it was about giving him an air cut, not a haircut, an air cut. If you took off more than 1/32 of an inch, it was like too much.
Well,
So it was just,
so wait, so who cut Al's hair then?
that's how we did his hair, with an air cut. It was just trimming it and snipping off the damaged ends that got destroyed while he was on tour. It wasn't until that he got with, when Suzanne came into Al's life as his wife, and she brought on her friend, Sean James.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean is a proper hairstylist. He worked in a salon at Fred Siegel, and he took over Al, and Al's hair has looked great.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very happy for that. I mean, I got injured really bad in 2004, so I was in and out of. I was in a hospital bed for 8 months, and then learning to walk.
Wow.
And in and out of wheelchair for 2 years. So that even during that time, Al didn't do anything during my downtime. And then I think it is that we did Running with Scissors, and then the Bob video. The Bob video was the last video I did.
Okay.
And from that point on, Sean has been with Al, and Sean has done a great job working with Al. And the album cover he did, I believe he did the album cover for Straight Outta Liquid.
Yeah.
Because that's where Al's from, and it's right next to Compton. So, and that was a big change for Al, because that was where you noticed the difference in the quality of production that was amped up. So a bigger budget was in play. I mean, the album cover for Straight Out of Linwood was awesome.
Yeah.
And it just, it looked great. And I think a lot of that, I don't know, but I think a lot of that is to the credit of Suzanne, because that's her specialty. And, she was with Fox in international marketing. She was the vice president. So, it really helped.
Mm-hmm.
And John has been maintaining Al's hair since.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump back to the Amish Paradise video, if we could. During the video, I know that Weird Al's parents, they make a cameo in the video, and I've always heard a story about Al's father coming in, having dyed his hair. Do you recall that story?
Oh my, I'm trying to think.
All right, so to give a little more background, I believe the rumor that I've heard was that the beard was made for Al's father, and it was gray because Al's father had gray hair at the time. And when Al asked him to be in the music video, he said, "Oh, I'm going to be in a music video. I need to go out and get my hair dyed black, so I don't look like I'm an older gentleman anymore." So when he showed up, the beard was a different color. It was gray and his hair was black. And then the rumor I always heard was that he had to then have his hair dyed gray to match the beard. Is any of that ringing a bell?
No. And I would have assigned one of my team members to doing Al's dad if it was there, because during the Amish Paradise, I was so focused on Al, and also the beards, because we were hand laying beards. I was also flocking, which is a way of static electricity using to apply hair, and then we were hand laying hair over the beards to give it a more realistic look, because the beards that we were using, they were pretty cheap quality wigs. And they just, that's the nature of of Al Productions. So to do it, make it work, you could do that, and then overlaying it with the yak hair to give it a different appearance instead of it being so fake and a hard edge where the lace is. So I don't really recall having to dye anybody's hair not during the day of production. That's a major task.
Yeah.
And it takes time to do that. So I don't recall that. And again, we not necessarily would have had the facilities available to us to do that. Because you got to be able to wash the hair out and all that. And
sure,
our work areas and that were pretty crude. I mean, we didn't have big makeup trailers and that available. It was,
I gotcha.
Usually finding a room somewhere in whatever location and setting up.
Yeah.
I mean, it is possible that this happened before he showed up on the set as well. So I just something I remember I'd heard over the years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But his parents were so sweet. I mean, it's, they were on Al's, they were so supportive and proud of him. And his dad was funny and charming and his mom, they were just the sweetest people. And he just was like, oh my God. And Al is their son. It really was a very, very special family. And I've worked with them when we did the Sam Goody cutout of them.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they were a part of a lot of, or at least coming to watch and, be a participant in several of the videos. They didn't live that far from LA, so they would drive up. But they were, they were an elderly couple. And it was absolutely devastating what happened to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, very sad, yes.
Did you notice any kind of difference in Al when his parents were around? Was he, I don't know, like on better behavior, or was there any difference, or was it just Al is Al?
No, not at all. Because his dad was a bit of a character, and yeah, Al did not change at all. He's very proud of them. He loved them. They were so proud of him, and yeah, they were great. No, he didn't act like, oh God, my parents are here. No, he wasn't about that. Yeah, Al is Al. And when he'd have, like Barry would come around, Dr. Demento, and he's another special character, and he's the one that put Al on the map.
Yeah.
And Al's always, Barry's very much a part of Al's circle.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And you know that Al's a vegan, right?
Oh, yeah. You told me a great story about when Al became a vegetarian.
Well, it's not about when he became a vegetarian. He was a vegetarian. I was very unaware of it. I didn't take care of his meal orders.
Right.
But it was years working with him. And Craig Armstrong was our producer. And I had seen Al just nitpicking at the celeries and the carrots and the radishes that come in on a catering sandwich tray. And all the sandwiches, were turkey, roast beef, tuna. He didn't eat any of that. And I didn't know that. So, did you eat? And he's like, no. I'm like, why? He goes, because I'm a vegan. I'm like, oh my God. And we were all shocked. Yeah, we had no idea. Because he just doesn't talk about that. And he doesn't complain. That's the thing. Al, I've seen him, and I don't know how he does it. He's one of those unique and rare individuals that can multitask at such a high level for a very long duration of time throughout the day. playing director, editor, and star, and maintaining his calm. He always has a very calm nature. And it's remarkable. It really is. I've worked with a lot of directors, and I've just never seen anyone ever operate at the level that he can, because he's so cerebral. And he's just not somebody who complains. And he was like, yeah, it really was incredible. And, you know, he's a special human being.
Roseanne, you were working with Weird Al during a time where he famously changed his look. He always had like a short curly hair with glasses and a mustache, and then he ended up getting LASIK surgery and growing his hair out and shaving off the mustache. Was there any pushback or concerns about him changing his look so dramatically?
There was concern, but it's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he's allowed to live his life. and he, you know, and the privacy, because everybody identifies with him with the mustache. So he can be a little bit incognito when he needs to have the mustache. It's an easy fix. It's just put one on, you know, and that's why he had what I refer to as air cut, because he did not want his hair cut for the longest time. And because he has curly hair, it takes it that much longer for his hair to show any growth and length.
Mm-hmm.
And so for years, I did the air cut of just trying to snip the end and keeping it so that his hair would grow out. You can't really do layers on it because he really wanted it one length. And he finally got that. You know, I think right around the time that he met Suzanne and they were dating, that he probably, I don't know if that had played into it, where he was wanting to remove, and then he, you know, talked about growing like a goatee, which I think he wears now. So he was just, you know, exploring his options.
Yeah.
Seeing what looked good and changing it up a bit.
I would love to ask about the Spy Hard music video, the opening sequence for Spy Hard. Were you working on that video as well?
Uh-huh. And on that video, I brought Lynn Egan back on to work with me as my second. So what part are you asking about?
Well, I'm really curious about how you work with Al's hair when there is literally parts where he's underwater. How does that work? And I guess the same could be said about the Off the Deep End album cover.
I didn't do the album cover.
Okay.
They just shot that. He dove in the pool and they shot it. I believe Clive was shooting. Clive was the cinematographer that worked with us in all the videos. He did not do UHF. UHF, our cinematographer, was David Lewis. And then Clyde Smith came in. For those sequences, yeah, they just shot that. And there was really nothing to worry about with his hair.
There was no special consideration. It's just, let's put Al in. His hair will just do what it does.
Yeah. You know, at some point like that, because the hair's going to float out, and because his hair is so curly, it's not going to weigh down heavy. So it's going to stay a little bit more afloat. Mm-hmm. And but there were two morbidly obese women that were also in the water.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we did them, and then, you know, worked with Al on that. And I don't even think I put makeup on Al. I might have done something just so he wasn't so washed out, because when I did Al's makeup, I had to formulate a formula of using different makeups and pigments so that it was transparent enough. And I mean, I pretty much put Al in makeup, arms, neck, face, everything, because Al is very pale.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's under lights, he's just too washed out. But so yeah.
For the Spy Hard music video, at the end, of course, Al keeps a note and then his head explodes. Did you create any of the elements, the wig, or condition any of the skin for that prosthetic that explodes?
Only the hair.
Yeah.
Only the hair. The rest of it was done by Matthew Mungle in the effects.
Mm-hmm.
And I just provided the wig that went on the head. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we shot that way late at night, one night, after a very, very, very long day. I mean, our shooting schedule on many, not all, but many of the videos would be 20-plus hour days.
Wow. Holy crap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. On Amish Paradise, we went 23 hours.
Wow.
Incredible. Wow.
Not my longest day in my career, but pretty close.
Wow.
My longest day was on a horror film called Retribution, and we shot 36 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
Oof.
Wow.
Crazy. Wow.
Everybody thinks it's such a glorified business, and I'm like, oh, come to work with me for a day. And, with Al, after 16 hours, and I don't say it to make fun of the disability and the syndrome, but after 16, 18 hours, I get what's called Tourette syndrome.
Okay.
And it's just like, it's a shot done.
Yeah.
No filter.
Your patience wears thin.
Like, okay. And we've done it, sitting there 23 hours and we're still shooting going, oh my God, how am I going to get home? But we've done it. And thank God did it without any, incident. But that's the nature of music videos. Music videos are notoriously long.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's a payoff with it. You could either do short days on real boring work, or you can work doing extra stuff and get to be really creative and be in your element.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was fun working with Al.
Sure.
And working with somebody that had respect for everybody that he worked with. And he did.
All right, so we talked a little bit about it earlier, but you also were with Al when he was working on the Weird Al show, the kids television show that was on CBS.
He doesn't like the fact that it was a kid show because it wasn't designed to be a kid show.
Right.
But that's where CBS marketed.
Now, how is that experience different than working on a TV show like the Weird Al show, different than working on something like a music video, which we've been talking about a lot?
Well, they both, the thing is with the format for the TV show, because it was series, it worked at a fast pace, and you had to have things prepped and ready to go. And Peyton was our director on that. A lot of times, whoever's directing is going to set the tone for, how it works. Also, the first AD and how they keep moving. And for the most part, most of the people know who the first AD was on the Weird Al TV show. But the first AD will generally set the tone for the crew and the mode. I was in a makeup room that was way off to the side and removed from all the other areas. And then I was just so busy in the makeup room because I was doing both hair and makeup. And Peggy Nichols was with me, and she has also done numerous sitcoms. So I knew that she knew how to work at a fast pace. And that's what we needed for that. And so, yeah, And then when necessary, I brought in additional people to be working on the set and to keep the set running and maintained so that I could be in the back room doing what I needed to do to get the next wig and the next look ready for Val, who, her name?
Paula J. Parker.
Yeah. So her character was a lot of work because we changed it so much. In hindsight, I would have maybe not changed it as much as we did, but that was an actor and director's choice. I'm like, whatever. And I was very fortunate to get a great deal from Manic Panic Wigs. And so they provided me with all the wigs that we used for her character. And then Peggy would go in and do her makeup. And Al's character, if I remember correctly, his character doesn't change too much during the show.
No, the character that Weird Al plays on the show is pretty much himself, but I mean, he does do a lot of little spoofs. You know, he did the Fred Huggins character. He did a lot of other little,
right,
clips and stuff like that. So there was a lot of I imagine a lot of makeup and wigs that went into that show as well.
Well, they did. It just wasn't. There is nothing that he did during that show that stands out for me as far as character-wise, because there were so many other characters that were brought in. And, I mean, we had musicians, and I forget the guy's name. Shame on me, who's an extremely well-known sax player.
Oh, are you talking about Clarence Clemens?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we just had, he had guest stars that he was like so excited that they were a part of, doing the show with them. And that was during the time that Clarence wasn't performing with Bruce Springsteen. And then, a few years later, then that changed. But it was, there was a lot of people that came in and on the show that, now wanted everybody treated like an A-list celebrity. And they were.
Yeah.
It was a busy show and a lot of work, but there's, I've never had a nightmare experience working on any of Al's projects.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah, no, there's no need for it. And if something can't happen the way that it's supposed to, then that's a technical issue. And as Al is my director, I always went to Al, or I would go to the producer.
Mm-hmm.
There was only one time where maybe there was a hiccup in that regard, and that would have been doing the Bob video.
Well, that's a great way for us to talk about the Bob video.
The Bob video, the video that almost didn't happen.
And why was that?
Well, because we were shooting, and it was with a new producer, and I do not remember his name. And something had happened the day before, and it was a big, big mix-up, whatever. And then we were we were shooting the day we did the Bob video, we had the opportunity to wrap early that day. And I guess that's what he wanted to do. I don't know what his agenda was for following, but, we had the Bob video planned, and Al would ask me, well, what do you think? And I'm like, I've got the wigs. We've got everything we needed. And the producer did not want to shoot it. And I'm like, well, we've got this. Why can't we just get it done? And so we did. And I'd already done the wig on Al.
Mm-hmm.
The one character that took long to do, I brought in another makeup artist to work with me. And I knew that we were going to do a bald cap on Bermuda. And he plays the background of, what's the guy's name? Allen
Ginsberg, yes.
Yeah, Allen Ginsberg. So the problem was my friend was doing Bermuda, and she is a perfectionist, and she's an incredible makeup artist and worked on The Grinch and, Planet of the Apes. And I wanted her there because I wanted this to look good.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I am and who I am. And yeah, it took a little bit longer than necessary, and she didn't need to necessarily do the back side of his head because it was never going to be seen.
Yeah.
But she wanted perfection, and she wanted to complete it. And even though I asked her a couple times, Geneva, just walk away, she was going to complete what she wanted to get done in her job. And that was my mistake. I should have just said, drop it, stop it, walk away. And she just kept doing it. And it just really pissed the producer off. But regardless, we got the video done, and they still were able to go home early that day. So, it's the video that almost didn't get done. And the producer did not like the fact that I had the influence that I had on Al. And, him seeing an artist that doesn't want to stop doing until the job is completed, I take blame for that, for allowing that to take place. But it still was there was no need for the drama of that. And they got the video, they've used it. Al seems to be quite happy with it. So, but that was my last job with Al. So, and that was after my injury. So it was like I was still having difficulty in relearning to use my leg again.
Wow.
It happened.
Now in the video, you were obviously there. What were Bermuda and Jay talking about? Do you have any? Did you hear them talking, or
no?
were they just pretending to talk?
They were so far. Jay was way deep in the background, and then Bermuda was Ginsburg, and then Al was up at the corner with the signs, Bob, and because I'm further back where camera is. I had no sound available to me. I have no idea what those guys were talking about. None whatsoever.
In the video, it's a one-shot deal. I mean, it's Al with the signs, and there's no cuts. Do you recall how many times it took them to go through it?
Not many. I think once or twice.
Wow.
That's why I'm telling you, almost a video that didn't get made. And it would have been, in my mind, it would have been criminal to not shoot that video. Because everything was prepared and everybody was ready to go and on it. The only thing is that the character Bermuda playing Ginsburg, and the fact that we were doing Ginsburg, and my friend really wanted to give it her 200% for the production quality of the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have to see the back of the hair. I get that. But the way that it was dealt with by, this producer, it just doesn't make sense. And it was just basically the fact that she didn't let go when I asked her a couple times. And he just thought that was like I didn't have control of the situation. And I did. I just allowed her to do what it is that she does as an artist. Mm-hmm. And that took it away. And that pretty much ended, everything with my relationship with Al, working with him, because moving forward, he went in a different direction.
Right.
And I have no idea if that producer continued on with him, whatever. But I always have held Al's best interest at heart, and there was no reason not to shoot that video, knowing that it was an easy take and to get it done. And Cameron needed to do certain things, and we were just ready to go. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy that he got the video. He was able to use it, and, end of story.
Yeah.
So I And I held no ill feelings or hard anything about Al, because I enjoyed 20 years of working with him that were wonderful, and I had such a great respect for him as an artist and as a human being. So to have that change, nothing was going to change that. There is no need to, and artists use other people all the time, and that's just the nature of the business.
Yeah.
And I'm fine. I'm fine with that. And, you know, when Sean was first working with Al, I got in touch with him to have a conversation with him about something, and I was just like, you really need to learn how to do both makeup and hair for Al. And that's what he's doing now. And he works with him, and he does a brilliant job with him.
Yeah.
And, you know, luckily for him, he's got better budget because Suzanne's on board. And so he's able to market him and elevate the level of marketing. And it shows. It shows in the production quality and everything. So I'm happy for them.
Was there any projects that we haven't covered that you'd want to talk about?
I'm trying to think. I mean, there are so many. You know, we did the Hanson video, but that was Al's directorial videos that he did.
Yeah.
But we did Axl Rose, we did Prince, and, you know, Michael Jackson loved what Al did with his work. Michael was always a fan of Al.
Yeah.
And he always gave him his blessings. And then Steven Spielberg and George Lucas loved, and Spielberg fell in love with Al when he did the Beverly Hillbillies and the animation. And
Oh, really? Yeah.
oh yeah, he really caught Spielberg's attention doing that video. And when we did the Star Wars, they invited Al, and of course they didn't go up there to do the transformation, but when they were up there in San Francisco, and I believe George Lucas and Spielberg both showed up for his show.
Wow.
Because of a lot of respect for who he was. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm just trying to think through the years of just doing various individuals that I've met through the years, that nothing, you know, they were all great projects, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity and the honor to work on all the iconic videos of the 90s. And I did.
It's incredible.
You know, and I just had to figure it out. And that's what I did. I would watch the videos. I would watch it the first time just to get an overall view of it. And then I would just keep going over and over and over until I had dissected every frame of the video and how it was going to achieve the end result. And that's how it worked. The one thing that you didn't touch on was that in Amish Paradise, and she was wonderful, was Florence Henderson, who came in to play the Michelle Pfeiffer character.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That was it. And so she was a dream.
That's
But,
awesome.
yeah.
Now, were there any other celebrities that you got to meet through working with Weird Al that, you know, you were excited to get to meet while you were working on any of these events with Al?
Well, one of them was the sax player, Clarence Clemens. I am a huge music fan. So, and that's in my arena of music that I like. There was one character that we had. I'm glad I didn't have to do her. I didn't have enough plaster, but she is a character, and that was Angeline. She's in one of, do you know who I'm speaking of? Angeline. She's an iconic billboard in Hollywood, or was for years, many years. And she's like this ageless Barbie doll. image with this blonde hair and like over the top, sexy outfit and driving her pink Corvette. And she's just an iconic figure in Hollywood. I think hopefully she's retired by now, but yeah, it was interesting meeting her.
In what capacity did she work with Weird Al?
She was just a cameo appearance, and I couldn't tell you which video it was, but she was a cameo, and she was very professional and very nice. And she had to wait a while to get before they got to her scene, and she was very gracious. And that was, it was nice to see that. I loved working with Robert Goulet. He was such a charmer. And, for the most part, and Florence Henderson, I mean, hello,
Of course.
We were watching her.
Yeah.
There were so many different people, and it was great. And you realize that they're all human beings. They're all human beings. And they just, some people are, none of the people I worked with Al on the set were particularly full of themselves. So everybody was a really wonderful professional experience. And then one of Al's good friends was on it. He's a weird character. I worked with him on UHF.
Emo Phillips?
I still don't quite get him. Yes! I don't get emo. Never have. He's just a little bit out there for me. And then I found out that Judy was married to him at one time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Judy, how and why? I love Judy. I used to I don't get it. I just don't get it. It was just, and I didn't get it. It was like, ow, why?
That's so funny.
He was an oddball. But that's the only one. The one, yeah. And when we did UHF, I had to work with him and doing the finger that gets cut off sparks blood. I was like, oh God. So yeah, Lynn was like, I'm not working on him. You are. I'm like, oh, wonderful. And I was just like, his hair doesn't need to be done. He's pasty white. He's perfect.
Right.
You're good to go.
Well, Roseanne, thank you so much for sharing all these wonderful memories and experiences with us. It sounds like you really had a wonderful time in all your years working with Al.
I really did. And I loved working with Al. And like I said, I have so much respect for him. And I'm so happy for his success. He's worked really, really hard and continues to work hard.
Yeah.
And then raised a daughter.
Yeah.
So my hat's off to him. And if you do speak to Al, please send my love for him and Suzanne and Nina. And I just hope the best for all of them.
Huge thank you to Roseanne McIlvane for joining us for the past 2 episodes and sharing all of those incredible stories of working with Weird Al all those years.
And we want to thank John Bermuda Schwartz for sharing a few photos of Roseanne with us from his personal archive. Be sure to check those out over on our Facebook group, group.2000inch.com.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota beautiful, it's also still recreational.
On the last episode, we mentioned that Darwin, Minnesota is home to Darwin-Dassel Park.
It has come to our attention that the residents of neighboring Dassel appear to hold a grudge over the name of this beloved community park.
The bitterness of Dassel residents is on display as the Facebook page for Darwin Dassel Park refers to the park as Dassel Darwin Park.
Rest assured that the residents of Dassel are just jealous and sneaky and smelly because Darwin Dassel Park is indeed located within the city limits of Darwin, Minnesota.
So visit Darwin Dassel Park in Darwin, Minnesota on your next expedition. Discover Darwin more than just a twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to visit discoverdarwin.biz.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast is brought to you absolutely free thanks to our incredible sponsors Burrito, Discover Darwin, and Jackson Scoggins. Our podcast is also supported by everyone in our Patreon family, with special thanks to our amazing close personal friend level Patreon supporters: Scott, Zeb, Adriana, Allison, Blair, Frank from the Bank, Jake, Jared, Javier, UH Jeff, and Kenneth. Also, thanks to Joseph and everyone else in our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
If you enjoy our family-friendly weekly Weird Al podcast, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/2000inch. There are awesome benefits like getting your name on the podcast and access to secret episodes. Plus, you can learn how to become a sponsor of the podcast. And don't forget to check out our merchandise over at shop.2000inch.com. Our new We Hate Intern Frank merchandise makes a great gift for Easter.
We love hearing from our listeners and other Weird Al fans. So join our Facebook community and post about Weird Al by visiting group.2000inch.com. And we also love it when we receive voicemail via our official 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline, 347-SPATULA. You might even hear your message in a future episode.
For everything about our podcast, including incredible past episodes and incredible past guests, be sure to visit WeirdAlPodcast.com or 2000inch.com. And while you're there, click on Black and White and Weird All Over bonus episodes for our special bonus episode book series, where author John Bermuda Schwartz walks us through his book, page by page and picture by picture.
Keep up on new episodes, podcast news, and events by following at 2000inch on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thank you for subscribing and leaving reviews on your favorite podcast application. Make sure you're subscribed because it not only helps the podcast, but also helps you avoid getting randomly selected by the TSA.
Thank you once again to our guest, Roseanne McIlvane, and also thank you to John Bermuda Schwartz. And thank you to the Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for our incredible podcast theme song. And thank you to Weird Al Yankovic, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. And a big thank you to all of you, our listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everyone else who makes our podcast possible.
Thank you for choosing Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. Be sure to join us next episode, where we are joined by Perry Grip and Steve Sherlock from the geek rock band Nerf Herder, as we talk all about their brand new single, Born Weird, featuring Weird Al.
And until next time, remember to gill and chill.
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 146-inch.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking Nerf herder?
Who's scruffy looking?
No. Oh, no. Well, yes, I have, but no.